Hi everybody, this is Oksana, and in this video we're going to be making this fun little rectangular pendant with this design on the front that kind of reminds me of a sea turtle perhaps. And I'm using only one type of wire here, which is 20 gauge round wire. And this design originated as this tutorial here that you might recognize that is an older one. And I had a question asking if that can work for a rectangular stone. So then I was like, oh, I wonder if it can. So I was able to make some adjustments to make it work for this shape. So in this video, I will show you how to do that. So let's go ahead and get started. The wire we're going to be using is this 20 gauge round dead soft copper wire. This spool is from riogrande.com, and this is the only wire that we're going to be using. For tools, you're going to need wire cutters to cut the wire. These are Swanstrom brand that I'm using here. And then you're going to need some pliers as well. My pliers are from Lindstrom, and they are the RX 7890. This is my stone. It's a Seraphinite, and it is rectangular in shape, and it measures just a smidge less than an inch. I'm going to say it's an inch because it's like almost an inch or 25 millimeters, but the size doesn't matter. It can be, bigger, smaller would probably be difficult if it was super tiny, since the wires are going onto the stone. We need the space on the stone for that. So we're going to start by using 2 pieces of that round wire I showed you, and you are going to cut them to be 10 inches long. So I'm going to grab those 2 wires roughly in the middle like this. And if you have a scrap piece of wire to temporarily hold them together, that will be helpful, just because things tend to get slippery. You can do it without doing this, but it just helps. And then also, if you don't have a little thin scrap piece of wire, you can use tape, like painter's tape. I'm going to use both in this video just to show you what it's like using either. So first I'm going to use this little 24 gauge half round little scrap that I had, and I'm just going to wrap it a few times around these wires. I'm going to leave the ends like this because I'm going to remove it. This is just temporarily to hold the 2 wires together, and you could have done the same thing with tape as well. So what we're going to do is we are going to bend our wires like this, and you are going to take your stone. The major difference in this design when trying to change it to work for a rectangular stone is, unlike in my previous tutorial that I did for this design, you can't just put it on the edges of the stone because it'll fall through. If nothing is holding this stone on the bottom, it'll just fall through because it doesn't get narrower at the bottom like our teardrop did in the other video. So we have to trap it from the bottom instead. And the way to do that is to take the wires like this. And the way that I had bent them, you want them to be right on the edge of the bottom, like right before the corner, like this. That way it's going to trap the bottom. It can actually even be like a smidge wider. But yeah, you want it to trap the bottom, but not like in the center of the bottom. You want them to be on the edges. Okay, and now is where I'm going to use the tape. You don't have to, but this really helps as things get quite slippery, and it's going to be difficult to hold the stone and hold these wires without them moving. As you can see, they move a lot. So let's center this exactly how we want, and let's put a piece of painter's tape. The reason I use painter's tape, you're welcome to use other types of tape, but the reason I use painter's tape is it doesn't tend to leave any sticky residue. It just kind of removes really easily. So I think I'm going to make this piece a little thinner and hold it just right in the middle here. All right. So when I look at that, I mean, this still kind of moves. The tape doesn't like super hold it to the point where I can't move at all, but it's better than, you know, trying to hold everything with your hands and having it dropping on you. So as you can see, there's two wires, the inner wire and the outer wire. You can just bend them both up right now at this angle, but I'm going to show you another option as well, which is where you separate them a little bit. And see this little corner? One is on the bottom side of the rectangle, on this side of the corner, and the other one is here. Okay, so one option is just to leave the wires together, and the other one is to separate them a little bit like this. Totally up to you. It just gives you a slightly different look. Okay, so the inner wires, we're going to go ahead and bend them up. 1 and 2, and just make sure, super important, that they are on the bottom of our stone, which will prevent the stone from falling through the design. And then the next wire, again, it's either right up against your other wire, or if you decided to do this like little spacing like I did, then it's here on the edge of the stone, and we're just bending it and just trying to put it next to our other wire, like so. Okay. And, ooh, this one actually moved. Let's fix that. There we go. Like so. So what we're going to do now is we are going to crisscross these. And I'm actually going to maybe use my pliers here, just to make sure that this one kind of got a curve in it. I want it to be straight, so it kind of mirrors the other one. This one is a little bit higher than this one, so I'm just gonna try and move this one a little bit. All right, I'm just trying to keep everything as symmetrical as possible. That's kind of my goal here with this. All right, so once you have them here crisscrossing, being symmetrical, try to have them crisscross. Like if you draw a line through the middle of your stone, try to have them crisscross underneath that line, which is what mine are doing here. And so what you're going to do now is one of them's going to be on top, or like one side, I mean 2 wires are going to be on top. And I'm just going to press so this little crisscross doesn't move, because it's kind of nicely in the middle right now. I don't want it to shift. So I'm going to press here, and I'm going to take the one that's on top and I'm going to curve it to the opposite side, and then I'm going to take this one which was underneath it on bottom, and I'm going to curve it towards the other side. And that what that's going to do is it's going to kind of twist them like this. So like a crisscrossing twist, so to speak. Okay, so I'm just going to kind of reinforce that a little bit here. And what you want to do now is I'm just going to remove my tape a little bit, because I'm going to be working on the top and the tape is in the way. Okay, so we are going to separate these a little bit. Okay, so these wires that are on the bottom, we are going to bend them to the back. So what you want to do is you just want to make sure that they are on like the same line. One isn't lower than the other. Okay, and then once you check for that, you can go ahead and bend them to the back like this. And we haven't looked at the back in a while, so let's just look at our back here. This is our back. Here's those wires. We're just going to continue with that bend that we made, bending them kind of flat onto the stone like this. Okay, so here's what it looks like from the front. We can get rid of the tape, and we can get rid of these little pieces of wire. Okay, so I'm going to remove this tape. that's holding it here on the back. And then I have this little piece of tape on the front as well. So I've removed that. So now we're just going to remove this wire here. If you didn't use the wire, you just use the tape, then you are all set here. So what I'm going to do is just trim it so that I have these short little ends. And then I'm going to come in here and unravel it. And actually, you could have, like if I didn't do this very neatly, right? Because this is just a temporary little scrap wire. So I wasn't worried about like making it pretty and tucking the wire ends away. But you could have done that. Like if you actually have a thin half round wire like mine. I don't want to make it part of this tutorial because I wanted this to be like you only need one type of wire to use, but if you have that and you wanted to actually leave it and make it all neat and tidy, you could leave it and you wouldn't have to remove it like I'm removing it right now. All right, so I am almost done. And it's done. So let's come back to the front here. What we're going to do now with these two wires is note which one is on top. So this one's on top for me and this one's on bottom. So I'm going to press here so nothing moves out of place. And I'm going to take this one that's on top and I'm going to curve it like this. And I'm going to take this one and I'm going to curve it as well, and I'm going to make sure it comes on top now. So they're switching positions. Okay, this was on the bottom and now I'm putting it over the other wire, so it's going to be on top. Okay, and I'm making my curve so that it makes like this little oval, like so. Okay, so I'm just going to take a look at that from the front to make sure that it's looking symmetrical. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my finger here where my oval is so it doesn't change shape, and I'm going to crisscross these wires. It's very important before you crisscross that they are symmetrical. Like if you imagine an imaginary line coming through the middle here, this one is the same distance as this one from that line. Okay, because if one of these wires is straight and the other one is angled down, what's going to happen is that the wire would just wrap around the other wire instead of getting a nice even twist. Okay, so I'm just going to keep checking that the wires are positioned properly every time that I do this twist. You can also kind of press on your twist a little bit and press on this little oval we made as well a little bit, just to make it all nice and neat. Okay, so I'm just going to twist, fix up these wires, twist. Now this is going to be our bail, and for your bail it's up to you how tall it is. Okay, you can make a really nice tall bail. If you need a thicker necklace that you want to put through it, like a beaded necklace, or you can just make a small bail. I think I got a little bit too excited here with the twisting, and mine's going to be kind of a taller bail because this ended up being kind of a long twist. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bend it this way, and then I'm just going to kind of bend it up. So here's how it's looking. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to shape it into that little loop that is the bail. So if you have something to bend it around, you can just bend it with your fingers. You can bend it around something, but basically we're just making a loop that will be our bail for our necklace to go through. Okay, so you're going to have two wires here on the back. You're going to have the wire that's on the bottom, and then this wire that's on the top. I'm going to use this top wire to secure my bail. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to move it up like this, okay? You want your bail to end roughly where your stone ends here. And then the other wire, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna straighten it. So it's like this, it's just going straight down, okay? So with this wire, I'm bringing it onto the front, like so. I'm gonna make sure that my stone is pushed down, okay? Because sometimes the stone can slide a little bit. See, ever so slightly sliding, so make sure it's pushed down. And we are gonna wrap this around because we're basically gonna lock it in place now, okay? So it shouldn't be moving too much more now. Let's just press down on that. And we are gonna loop it all the way around, and one more time just for extra security. So we've wrapped the wire around. You can see it here on the front. The stone should be secure now. You can fix your bail if it got bent in that process. And then what we're gonna do to end the wire is we are going to trim it. So here's our little wire end. Just gonna trim it, but leave a little end, just a nice small end to tuck away. Here it is. You can see that little end there. So what I'm gonna do is just tuck that into the bail. It needs to be small because if it's long, it'll poke through the other side of the bail. And we don't want that. We want it to end up just in here. So I'm just tucking it away, pressing down on it. I'll show you in a minute. There, hopefully you can see. See the end in there? It's just right in the bail, and you can't feel it from the other side. It's not going all the way through. Okay, so we finished up our bail. If this little oval got a little bit misshapen or like misaligned, in my case, I'm gonna try to fix that a little bit. All right, so this wire here, I'm gonna line it up right here. We are gonna trim it, but leave a little bit. It's better to leave a little end that's too long and then trim it some more later than too short, okay? So this is my little end that I left myself. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put it underneath these wires, okay? And the way that I'm gonna do that is I'm going to move it to the side here, and then I'm gonna try to tuck it underneath these wires. Now you might have to lift those wires up a little bit from the stone to get it under there, okay, like this. Once you have it under there, this is why we needed the little end. We're gonna grab the little end, and if your end is too long, like if you have a huge bit of wire here, you could trim it again. Okay, but mine seems to be the right length. Actually, I might need to trim it a tiny bit more. But first I'm gonna curve it down like this, because I wanna just connect it to these two wires and lock everything in place here. So I think that I could theoretically trim it the littlest bit here, like that, okay? So now I'm gonna press on that and close up that little loop. Close that up, and now my wire end is pointing down into the stone. You can't feel it, it's tucked away. These two wires here on the bottom are now connected. They're not gonna, separate or move away from the stone. Just gonna check how that's looking from the front, if anything needs to be fixed up. And all we have left is these two wires. So for these two wires, just make sure that they're still aligned nicely. One didn't go up higher than the other. And now we're just going to move it to one side and to the other side. Okay, so we bent them to the opposite sides. Here's what that looks like. And now we're going to do basically what we did here by trimming them and pushing them down. So with my pliers, pushing that down, pinching that closed, and on this side as well. So here is what the finished piece looks like from the back and from the front. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, leave me a like down below and don't forget to subscribe. I post new videos every weekend. I'll see you next time. Bye.